26 years ago, in a third-year classroom of a middle school, there was a student named Misaki. As an honor student who was also good at sports, she was popular with her classmates. When she suddenly died, her classmates decided to carry on as if she was still alive until graduation. However, things will not go as they seem. How does it feel to not exist?
Stop acting like a girl! Get your hands up!
The Misaki who died in April was the first. If that's true, then that means that...
I think I might have f***ed up!
Stop acting like a girl! Get your hands up!
I'm not a big fan of most of the horror, or as Colin Mockery from Whose Line Is It Anyway likes to put it, genre in general for any type of entertainment medium, mostly because I find no entertainment in jump scares, which is what the medium goes to more than anything else from what I've seen. To me, a good horror story would build up suspense and tension, manipulating emotional stress continuously, not in sudden quick jabs which only purpose is to startle you. While not having a main focus on horror, Blood Plus is a show that did very well in continuously manipulating emotions, which is one of the reasons on why I like the show so much. Now we move on to another show, Another. Is another failure in the horror genre, or is another great addition? And yes, I believe that Another is considered a horror story, considering its first genre tag on Hummingbird is horror. Boy, saying Another many times throughout this video is going to be a pain. What's up guys, it's Kent from Spartan Media Reviews, here to review the anime Another. Does this show deserve a watch? Let's find out. Just like a lot of horror premises, Another's main story element focuses on death of a character, more specifically a student named Misaki 26 years ago. However, still after 26 years, people keep randomly dying in mysterious ways because of the curse of said student. In walks the new transfer student Sakakibara, and as he learns about the curse as well, things obviously won't be going in any of the student's favor. Does that premise sound interesting to you? If yes, I wouldn't bother with this series because you will probably come out disappointed no matter what. To anyone who has seen PA Works' other work, and one of the worst series that I personally have seen, Glasslip, make the animation more creepy and mysterious looking, and make the soundtrack a lot more dark and dreary, and you have created Another. While watching Another, I could not tell in the slightest what its overall focus wanted to be. Did it want to be a serious horror story, or was its goal to be a cheesy, stupid, so bad it's good, ghost stories type of show? I mean, the show had the stereotypical beach episode for crying out loud. Either way, the majority of Another story was boring. For a majority of the show, pretty much nothing happens aside from the death scenes, which total to about 10 minutes, if that, out of the 12 episodes. Also, when something of significance happens that would progress some ideas, they go against what they just said, and the characters go right along with it. The story also uses plenty of cliche horror genres, which didn't help its distinction of trying to be different either. Finally, we have the ending, more specifically the last 2 episodes. Skip ahead to this timestamp to avoid spoilers. You have 5 seconds. Common sense is thrown out the window and every character becomes a madman, suddenly knowing how to kill each other without any sort of remorse or empathy. The whole building is burning down, but for some stupid reason, no one evacuates. What I also find hilarious is that when some of our main cast is having a large fight out in the hallway, none of the supporting cast even looked outside of their rooms to see what the commotion is, until someone on the loudspeaker told them to kill Misaki because she was the dead student. I certainly wouldn't stay cooped up in my room if I heard screams coming from my classmates outside my door. Finally, we have the conclusion, and boy oh boy was it a doozy. Almost everyone is dead that is left inside the building aside from Sakakibara and Misaki, but they still won't evacuate for some stupid reason even when the building is crumbling right in front of their eyes. Besides that, through some strange occurrence or another, Sakakibara can suddenly make phone calls again, so you would think he would call emergency services to at least help the people who are still alive and injured. But nope, he decides to call Misaki instead, because he can't find her. In the end, Misaki knew who the dead person was all along, but decided not to tell anyone, and after killing the cursed student, everyone who didn't die tragically lived happily ever after. I wanted to like your story, Another. I really did. But you made it really difficult to do so. To give the story some credit, the mystery elements of the show were at least interesting in some points, even though they made next to no sense the majority of the time. The atmosphere given off at some points during the show was also actually well executed during many points of the series. The cast of Another is bland, and that's putting it lightly. By the end of the series, I learned next to nothing about any of these characters as they were extremely dull and boring. The cast of this show was also way too large for its own good. Having over 30 plus characters in a series leaves very little development for a large chunk of the cast. I mean, look at the airing series The Lost Village and see how well they are doing with that aspect. Sakakibara and Misaki don't develop nearly enough for their own good, not really transforming in any way, even while progressing through the mystery, and the main supporting cast, while having at least a bit of personality, stayed the exact same almost the entire time. While I love the character death scenes, in the end they meant entirely nothing in transforming our cast. If a person died right in front of you, you would think that some form of trauma would last at least a little while. However, in Another's case, no one really cares after a character's death scene ends. They just move on and follow the same path they have always taken, which has always resulted in someone's death. It would have been a cool idea to at least make the characters a little worried in who would die next, which would make me think about the events happening in the story. And if I was incorrect in my prediction, at least the show would be thought-provoking in some of its writing. By far, the animation was the best aspect of the show. The amount of detail put into the majority of the background art is fantastic, and that doesn't even put it well. It certainly made it the focal point of every scene. Character designs were pretty standard fare for a high school setting, minus Misaki, who was the original Rika from Love Chunibyo and Other Delusions, even though her personality is much worse in my eyes. The general animation was good, nothing over the top, excluding the gore scenes. The gore scenes and character deaths made the show what it was. They were interesting, and some of them were actually fairly creative in a way. They were as brutal as they could be, and they were the only scenes where I actually reacted to what was on screen, which I think is a good thing considering I was going to die out of boredom myself while watching this show. The opening is fairly interesting in its own regard, doing a good job in having a mysterious-like atmosphere and loads of imagery, even though the story never takes full advantage of that aspect. While the ending is a simple pan of our characters posed in one room, somewhat along the same lines as another PA Works series, Angel Beats. The soundtrack to Another is pretty standard as horror and suspense elements go. It's mysterious and somewhat spooky in its tone, but no track was worthy of being held higher compared to the next. I found the opening to be my favorite track in the series, but I don't think it worked well as Another's opening. I would have gone with something much slower and darker compared to the fast-paced and energetic style they used. The ending was fine, having a saddening tone, but it really doesn't stand out in my eyes. Now we can move on to the voice acting. Sentai's dubs at this particular time were still not held in the highest regard. I think the casting choices were pretty spot on, but once again, the voice direction just didn't work at a lot of points during the series. Something about it felt off, and the emotions portrayed at some scenes either were over or underplayed. It's not the worst dub that Sentai Filmworks has produced, but it was still rough to listen to at points. Now, with everything that I have said, do I recommend watching Another? No. Although I haven't seen many horror anime, Another, in my opinion, is severely lacking in both story and character progression. The story was bland in my eyes, never really pulling me into any of its writing or thematic elements, and the characters were extremely flat and one-dimensional. While the animation and soundtrack significantly helped Another's case, the overall product was rough to get through. If you were looking for a horror anime, I would probably look elsewhere, unless you want a good laugh, in my case at least. Spartan Media Reviews gives Another a final score of 3 out of 10 and a bad recommendation. If you are interested in watching Another, you can check out the series on Crunchyroll, Hulu, or the Anime Network. Now, what are your thoughts on Another? Comment below. If you enjoyed this review, hit that like button, I would really appreciate it. You can also subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, I would really appreciate that as well. Follow me on Twitter and Hummingbird to keep up to date with the current things that I am doing, and with all that said, I will catch you guys in my next review. Thank you for watching.